It is now a great honor for me to invite His Royal Highness to address our audiences around the world. Polo Polo. Please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted we are joined by those of you in Tokyo and Johannesburg as we prepare for a pivotal moment in the fight against illegal wildlife trade. I'm particularly grateful to TUSK for providing this unique platform, and to ISPS Handa Foundation and TUSK other sponsors for making such an ambitious occasion possible. To John Scanlon and Dr. Handa, thank you for sharing your thoughts on an issue I particularly feel passionate about. Today's event, on the eve of the CITES conference in Johannesburg, is timely, and its global nature reflects the global scale of this challenge. Earlier this month, the Great Elephant Census was published, and it confirmed what many of us have feared for some time. One of our planet's most treasured species is on course for extinction at the hands of poachers and traffickers. When I was born, there were 1 million elephants roaming Africa. By the time my daughter Charlotte was born last year, the numbers of savanna elephants had crashed to just 350,000. And at the current pace of illegal poaching, when Charlotte turns 25, the African elephant will be gone from the wild. And the risk is not just to elephants. Today is World Rhino Day, a species that, due to demand for its horn, is being killed at a rate of nearly 3 animals a day. Rhinos face extinction in our lifetimes as we struggle to correct lies about the supposed benefits of using its horn as a drug. However, this crisis is not just about animals. This crisis is also about people. It is some of the world's poorest people who will suffer when their natural resources are stripped from them illegally and brutally. It is families in the world's most vulnerable regions who suffer when 2 rangers are killed every week on the front line of this fight. It is fragile democratic systems in many nations that are at risk from the scourge of violence and corruption that the illegal wildlife trade fuels. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not prepared to be part of a generation that lets these iconic species disappear from the wild. I'm not prepared to explain to our children why we lost this battle when we had the tools to win it. And I know that none of you in Tokyo or Johannesburg or here in London want this either. I fear we will not know what we have lost until it has gone. But there is hope. We can do something. There is huge momentum building from governments, businesses, conservationists, and the public to take the steps required to stop the killing. 3.5 years ago, I spoke on the eve of the last CITES conference, and I urged parties to redouble their efforts to tackle illegal wildlife trade. As we stand on the eve of another CITES gathering, there is much to celebrate. The London conference in 2014, which showed that governments were taking this seriously. The Elephant Protection Initiative, now with 14 member countries. China and America's leadership when last year they were the first to announce domestic bans on ivory trade. The recovery in giant panda numbers in China, one example of how concerted action can deliver results. The transportation industry, led by Lord Hague, acting with resolve through the Buckingham Palace Declaration to tackle their role in this issue. And last week, the overwhelming vote at the IUCN, World Conservation Congress, calling on all countries to close their domestic ivory markets. These are all significant steps, but progress is fragile and we cannot be complacent. As leaders gather for CITES, there is a place for commercial hunting in Africa, as there is around the world. It's not to everyone's cup of tea, but the argument for regulated, properly controlled commercial hunting is that the money that goes from shooting a very old, infirm animal goes back into the protection of the other species. So when one is infertile, he's at the end of his life, if somebody out there wants to pay that money, and it wouldn't be me, but if somebody did, then as long as that money goes back into protection of the species, then it is a justifiable means of conserving species that are under serious threat. And that isn't just me talking, that is a lot of eminent conservationists out there who truly believe that there's a balance to be had here. And of course, it is a fine balance.
Now, Prince Charles and William came together today to help launch a powerful campaign to halt the rise in the illegal trade in endangered animals. But as they spoke about the threat to the destruction of rare species through poaching, they themselves face charges of hypocrisy for taking part in a sport that campaigners say is linked to the death of iconic birds of prey like golden eagles and hen harriers. Cordelia Lynch has this report.
It's a bird that you see gliding effortlessly across the mountains with the snow and the rocks in the background, and it fills you with wonder and takes your breath away. A bird that people will travel hundreds and hundreds of miles to come and see really does symbolise wild Scotland.
I'm delighted that our foundation has been able to provide an impetus for the creation of United for Wildlife.
Today, Prince William campaigned to protect iconic species in Africa, fresh from shooting wild boar in Spain. But some animals in the UK are also being pushed to the brink.
This area of the Angus Glens in the Eastern Highlands has seen an absolute catalogue of illegal killing of some of our most iconic birds of prey.
By 1993, the Duke of Edinburgh, the owner of 56 shooting rifles, had brought down 30,000 birds from the skies. He'd killed 2 crocodiles, as well as scores of wild boar, several hundred Scottish stags, and an Indian tiger. The Duke of Edinburgh's accumulation of animal corpses, piled up over the past 40 years, ranges widely over continents, covering mammals and birds for the Tweedy Duke's jocular holocaust. Figures compiled from press reports in Britain alone reveal this conservationist as targeting hare, wild duck, snipe, woodcock, teal, pigeon and partridge, commandeering English wildlife with lead shot. In 1993, at the royal family's Sandringham estate, shooting pheasant daily, often with his wife, the Duke hit a target of 10,000 during his 7-week stay. His Norfolk parties have now bagged 150,000. Should the Duke partially miss, then a bird he's wounded is brought by a gun dog to the royal group, where the Queen stands waiting with a convenient stick, and Her Majesty bludgeons it to death. Prince Philip especially enjoys shooting wild boar on the estates of friends in Germany. On one occasion, he and Prince Charles, wrote The Independent, are said to have killed 50 wild boar in a single day. Prince Philip frequently defends his love of blood sports by claiming that he's culling rather than killing all the wildlife he's dispatching, though to wildlife itself, it's a distinction without a difference. Alive to the importance of royal tradition, Prince Andrew first took his daughter out shooting when she was 6. Perhaps the prince had told her about culling and killing, or perhaps he simply told her shooting was fun. Above all, he adores shooting rabbits, said a hunting friend of William's, shooting in the hills above Loch Muick, though the trainee royal's late mother said she was sorry her sons were, in her words, so keen on killing things. To Diana, they'd grown into a couple of little thugs who'd boast to classmates of granny's castles. "When I'm king," Prince William would say when thwarted, "I'm going to send my knights around to kill you. If you give me a hard time," he told a schoolboy opponent, "I'll get my dad to cut your head off," as if aware of some entitlement to adopt the serial killer Henry VIII as a murderous role model. They are never happier than when they have a gun in their hands, their mother noted, though warning them not to be photographed with guns. "I told them," she said, remember there is always someone in a high-rise flat who does not want you to shoot Bambis. Unfazed, Harry is accused of shooting owl-like hen harriers, of which there are only 700 breeding pairs, the bird's offence being to compete with humans in taking grouse, though the hen harrier only kills them to survive. Equally undeterred, Harry's elder brother spots an ibis, a bird revered in ancient Egypt, as the envoy of Thoth, god of words and of wisdom, when William is out hunting in Kenya. This slow, graceful bird, with a beak like a crescent moon, is considered an omen, but to William it's a trophy, and he opens both barrels. But later, on learning it's endangered, says lamely, "I was told they were good enough to eat."